People write books about it. All YouTube doctors and scientists are talking about it. Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey provides it to his staff all around the world. And even Ed Sheeran sings a song about it.
Come and kiss me, salt water.
It's salt. Should we all add salt to our water and food, or take this advice with a grain of salt? I decided to figure it out. In this video today, I'll be talking a lot about salt. I'll also explain the difference between salt and sodium, what electrolytes are and how they differ from sodium, the benefits, negative and positive effects of electrolytes and salt on our body, on our mental performance, on our physical performance, on our health in general. I think I've studied lots of dozens of different articles. I watched hours of videos. I read several books about salt intake. So I'll be sharing with you the recommendations on the salt intake based on different factors. I experimented for 30 days on intaking salt and electrolytes on myself. So I'll be sharing my experience. And by the end of the video, I'll also share my verdict of how much salt you should take and whether this trend is worthy. Disclaimer. There are many different factors that influence how much salt you should intake. And although I'm reading a lot and trying to really dig deeper into the topic, I am not a doctor. This is the recommendations just for myself, and I'll be just sharing all my research that I've done, but please don't take this as a medical advice. I am not a doctor. So, what is salt? Is it sodium? Is it chloride? What's the difference between sea salt, table salt, Himalayan salt? How do electrolytes fit into this definition? Let's figure it out. Salt, also known as sodium chloride, it consists of 40% of sodium and 60% of chloride. There are three main types of salts that humans are intaking on a daily basis. This is the table salt, sea salt, and Himalayan salt. What's the difference? Table salt is coming from underground salt deposits. Then it is processed to remove all the impurities and minerals. Sea salt is coming from evaporating salt water. And it is minimally processed, which means that it remains all the minerals such as iodine, calcium, magnesium, and potassium. And there is also Himalayan salt, which comes from an ancient sea formed before humans, which means it comes before the pollution, and it contains all the minerals and has zero microplastic inside of it. That's why it is considered as the healthiest salt that you can consume. All these types of salts, they contain the same amount, approximately the same amount of sodium. Sodium is a chemical that is present in humans' body. There are around 250 grams spread across all our body, with the higher concentration in our blood, in our plasma, in our sweat glands, in tears, and urine. Here we are coming to the definition of electrolytes, because sodium is one of the electrolytes. Electrolytes can be defined as minerals in our body fluids that are responsible for maintaining this acid-base balance. The most well-known electrolytes are magnesium, potassium, calcium, chloride, phosphate, and sodium, of course. All these electrolytes are required in different quantities, in different amount for various bodily functioning. But probably the most important of them are our nerve and muscle functioning, the acid-base balance, and hydration. Actually, right now, I'm exploring this topic of hydration. I'm reading several books and articles and experimenting with myself. I started drinking 2.5 liters of pure water and okay, I won't be doing the spoiler here, but if you're interested in this experiment, in my learnings and research of how much water intake one should take, so stay tuned and subscribe to my channel. I'll be publishing this video shortly. While preparing for this experiment, I read a book which is called Water and Salt, Your Healers from Within. And the doctor there, the author, emphasizes and describes that around 85% of the brain and about 75% of the body's soft tissue cells are made up of water. And all the other liquids that we are intaking, like sodas, coffees, prosecco, wine, they are dehydrating us even further. And that's why it is important to keep the level of hydration at a certain point. Okay, got it. So we have to drink a lot of water. Why can't we just, I don't know, drink 10 liters of water and that's it? But the problem with it is that we'll just pee a lot because it's just a fluid. It will just go away. So definitely you can't drink 10 liters of water. It is harmful. From what I know, you can, the amount of water that you can drink is 5 liters, and this is the top. Are there more than 5 liters for a normal human being? It is harmful. So that's where the sodium and potassium, these electrolytes, come in to help, because they actually help us retain this water in our body and hydrate our body without going to the toilet a lot. 30 seconds of smart information. There are basically two types of thirst: hypovolemic and osmotic. Hypovolemic, it means that we are not just seeking for water, but we are seeking for water and minerals. And osmotic, this is just the thirst when we only need and want water. Okay, now that we understand why we don't need just to drink water, what salt, sodium, and electrolytes are, let's try to figure out why Herbermann, Dr. Berg, Elements, and all these people, and even Ed Sheeran, why they all talk about salt water and recommend drinking it. Salt is needed to make hydrochloric acid inside our stomach to kill bad bacteria, to help us digest protein and assimilate minerals. Our adrenals, they need a certain amount of salt, because adrenal deficiency can lead to low blood pressure, to stress, to low energy, and rapid pulse. Low salt intake can cause insulin resistance, which means that our muscles, fat, and liver, they don't respond well to insulin, and our blood sugar, it raises. As I already mentioned, adding salt and electrolytes and sodium helps with the hydration, especially in the morning when you wake up, and in general, a glass of water could help you rehydrate this, but adding a pinch of salt or electrolytes, especially Himalayan salt, can also help you replenish these lost electrolytes that you've lost during your sleep. Let's be honest, we all today consume a pretty huge amount of carbs in a day, and carbs, they hold water in our body. So if you're staying stick to a low carb diet, a keto diet, for example, so then you have to rehydrate your body, because if you have low carbs, then you go to the toilet, you pee more, because your body does not retain as much water as if it had more carbs. So if you're on a low carb diet, so adding a pinch of salt and electrolytes to your water, it will help you stay hydrated and retain these electrolytes and water inside your body. A quick note here, I'm actually right now doing another challenge, is no refined sugars, no processed added sugars challenge. I'm trying to remove any processed food, any added sugar food from my diet, from my nutrition and meals. So if you're interested in this experiment, and with this experiment, also learning a lot about carbs and the effect of it on our body. So if you're interested in this experiment, so please, again, stay tuned, and I hope that I'll be able to publish these videos soon and share my experiment and my learnings with you. Salt water can help you flush out the toxins. Like, obviously, if you drink more, you go to the toilet more, right? So you flush out this naturally. But let's get back to the topic of the digestion, that salt water helps you with better digestion. And if you add more salt, right, so you can also flush out the toxins in both ways, if I can say so. So it not only flushes the toxins, number one, but with the help of number two as well. Adding sodium, potassium, electrolytes, salt in general to your water can help conduct nerve impulses in your body and nervous system. So electrolytes are not just called electrolytes because they are, I don't know, beautiful, right? But because they actually carry their nerve electrical signal between the nerves. And in other words, these minerals facilitate the transmission of nerve impulses, immune signals, and many other communications throughout our body. Drinking more electrolytes and salt can help improve the sport performance, because lots of long distance runners, and I am, by the way, preparing for a marathon next year, so that's why this topic is super important to me. And I'm also working out a lot, but definitely I'm not a professional. But professional athletes, they have a very low sodium concentration in their bloodstreams, which can lead to muscle misfunction. Therefore, drinking salt water and electrolytes before extreme physical activity can improve the performance. And that's why these marathon runners, they have these little pieces of electrolytes in their bags that they take like every 20 minutes or every hour from the run to support the concentration of sodium in their bloodstream. Okay, it all sounds great. Let's go and consume this 1 kilogram of salt right away. Stop. Please don't do this, because NHS recommends that healthy adults limit sodium intake to less than 2,300 milligrams, which is 1 teaspoon, around 6 grams of salt. The World Health Organization suggests consuming 2,000 milligrams. This is around 5 grams of salt, of 2,000 milligrams of sodium per day. American Heart Association advised a much lower intake of 1.5 milligrams, which is around 4 grams of salt per day. British Heart Foundation recommends 2.5 grams of sodium a day. So although they all disagree on the normal recommended maximum amount of the sodium and salt intake that normal human beings should intake, they all agree on the minimum amount, and the minimum amount is around 500 milligrams, which is 1.25 grams of salt on a daily basis. And it seems to be clear why. You've probably heard that loss of salt can cause heart disease and stroke. So let's tap into it. In 2017, researchers analyzed 2,632 people who were consuming either above 2.5 grams of sodium or lower than 2.5 grams of sodium. I'll keep the recommended amounts here on my left, it's gonna be probably right, here just for the reference. But this research showed that people who were taking more than 2.5 grams of sodium, they had lower blood pressure than those people who were restricting the salt. That's super interesting. But I'd say that 2.5K of people, that's not a huge representation. Let's have a look at another research. Intersalt study published in 1988, but still, they looked at more than 10,000 of people across 52 regions of the world from different continents, and the link between sodium potassium intake and blood pressure. So what they figure out is that in the vast majority of these 10,000 of people, researchers observed no link between sodium intake and high blood pressure. But there are some outlier population that stood out. Obviously, people with high blood pressure, with diabetes, chronic kidney diseases, as well as older adults and African Americans, they tend to be more sensitive to the blood pressure raising effects of sodium. So please be aware of it. And even though there were 10,000 people studied, there are still some populations, and if you have any predisposition to these diseases, you should be very careful with the sodium intake. Okay, that's probably not a ton of information, but everything points is to that we can take a teaspoon of salt on a daily basis and nothing will happen to it and we'll just benefit from it. But the problem is that on average, we sometimes consume even more salt on the daily basis with the food that we intake. And unless a person is a professional athlete, unless they are on a low-carb diet, unless they are fasting, or unless they have recently a diarrhea, so I'd say that you shouldn't really focus a lot on intaking a lot of salt and sodium into your diet. You should stick to where you are and just approximately try to calculate how much salt and sodium you are intaking with your normal meals and drinks. Because I want to think that I'm not a normal person. Everyone wants to think that they are special. I'm definitely not a professional athlete, but I'm preparing for the marathon. I'm working out nearly every day. Another challenge that I am tapping into right now is spending like 1,000 active calories a day, which is a lot for a little girl like me. Plus, I have hyperhidrosis. I sweat a lot. So I decided to understand how much sodium I'm losing when I'm sweating, when I'm working out, when I'm fasting. So let's try to understand it. That's a tough question. How much sweat do you actually lose when you work out, when you exercise? Sort of like you can't squeeze all the sweat from you and then try to measure the amount of liquid and then try to figure out how much sodium is in this sweat. There are so many different factors that actually affect it. The first one is definitely the intensity of your workout, how hard you work and how much heat you produce. The second is the weather, the conditions, whether you're in a hot environment, whether it is super cold. The third is the clothes that you're wearing, right? The fourth is how well you are trained, because if you're a well-trained person, it also can affect very much how much sweat you are producing. And the fifth one is the genetic factor, right? So you can't really change this. And all these factors, they differentiate so greatly how much sweat we lose person from person. So it's really hard to make an average. But right now, I want to show you this table, which is based on a study with a very large amount of athletes in a wide variety of sports. So this infograph, it shows the ranges in sweat rates observed in different sports. So as you probably can see here, for example, in American football, sweat rates, they are extremely high because of the conditions. So it is usually a hot weather. The players wear a lot of protective clothes, and the large muscle mass and explosive effort means a lot of heat production. Okay, we got it. Everyone sweats differently, but what is the average sweat? So, okay, let's take a very average person, and I'm highlighting this average because it can differ greatly. So all these numbers, they are super average. So in the study I referred above, the average sweat sodium concentration was 0.8 grams per liter. And again, this study was based on different sports and primarily professional athletes. So if you're not a professional athlete, probably it's going to be even less. So in one of my recent runs, so I bought Garmin just to plan my runs and prepare for the marathon. But anyway, I'm super happy with it so far. But the main idea here is that it also gives you an estimate of how much sweat you lost. So in my recent run of 6 kilometers, it says that I lost 280 milliliters of sweat, and if I calculate here, so which is approximately 0.22 grams, 220 milligrams of sodium, and it's just like one little grain of salt that I will need to intake to replenish those amount of sweat that I lost and the amount of sodium that I lost. So yeah, this is it feels like we are sweating a lot, right? But we're just losing a little of sodium. Yeah, and based on this information, so probably what I would say is that you really have to be very careful with the sodium intake. And there are lots of different foods and drinks that provide electrolytes. So for example, if you're talking about sodium, it's pickled food, cheese, obviously table sea salt, Himalayan salt. If you're talking about potassium, it's different fruits and vegetables like bananas, avocado, and sweet potato. If you're talking about magnesium, it's different seeds and nuts. Calcium comes from dairy products and some other dairy alternatives and green leafy vegetables. And there is one very, very, very popular electrolyte that probably you've heard before. It is called LMNT. I want to emphasize our attention on element because I've been seeing lots of ads of it everywhere. And I definitely have it at home. As you can probably saw on my thumbnail picture, I'm taking electrolytes. And I mean, it's great. Electrolytes are great, but you can't take them every day, five packs at a time, because every pack contains 1,000 milligrams of sodium. And unless you are like all this list that I mentioned above, unless you are on a low carb diet, unless you are a professional athlete, unless you are intermittent fasting, unless you had some recent digestion problems, you shouldn't take lots of electrolytes, lots of element packs. Let's look at their website. Yeah, so as you see here, the founder of LMNT says, I need more salt, period. Strong, precise, yes, of course. If you exercise, if you're on a low carb diet, drink more salt, go for it. But unless you're not, just be careful with it. That's my recommendation from everything that I've learned. I've been drinking salt and electrolytes for the last almost 50 days, nearly 50 days. I've been tracking it. Sometimes I was just taking salt, sometimes I was taking electrolytes. And before the workout, after the workout, I really feel that electrolytes, that element, they help me restore my energy and I feel better immediately. But if I take too much, then I feel like I don't want to drink a lot. And I'm really forcing myself to drink more and more and more water. And I even noticed that I can't really fall asleep because I'm not sure about the reason of this, but I can't fall asleep. And I'm not going to the toilet that often as I used to, which I'm not sure if is a good factor. But again, what my recommendation, my final words here is that if you consider taking elements, sodium, any other electrolytes, or just simple salt, just calculate beforehand and take into account your activity level, your intermittent fasting schedule, and other factors like your nutrition factors. Thank you very much for watching this video. It means a lot to me that you watched it, and probably up to this very point. I very much appreciate it. I'm just starting my channel, so any feedback that you have, please provide it to me. I'm definitely learning a lot, and I want to be very open-minded. So even if you disagree with some of my points, please disagree with me, because I'm not a doctor. I'm learning all this information together with you and just sharing my experiments and my experience and my research with you. If you liked it, please like this video. Please subscribe to my channel. That would mean a world of support for me. And yes, I hope to see you soon, and I hope that you'll watch all my future videos, because there are so many exciting things that I'm working on right now that I'll be happy to share and discuss with you. Thank you so much and have a good day.